What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Adventure Outpost, your hub for all things movie related. Another weekend has come and gone, and it is once again time for us to talk those juicy box office numbers. It was an absolutely big weekend to be looking forward to with the release of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and all eyes were looking to see what Marvel was going to do in its latest output. It has not been a good Phase 4 or sort of good off Phase 5 right now, so all eyes were on Guardians to see just what it would do. And it's a bit of a mixed bag. It's definitely more successful than some of the other ones have been, but it's all going to be looking again once towards this second week drop off to see what is this thing's staying power going to be, because that's going to make or break it here at the box office. And we're going to dive into all that good stuff today. But quickly before we begin, as always, if you enjoy any of these videos and you'd like to see more of this content, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, drop some comments down below. It's how we help this channel grow. But and to the show, we are now going to dive into all of that good stuff regarding Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And as always, we first take a look here at our overall weekend in 2023 to see just how well the box office is doing week over week. We take a look here at this chart. As we see here in the 2023 box office in week 18, this past weekend, we had the box office total of the top 10 of 151 million, plus 76.1% over the previous week where we dipped below 100. We are now back over the $100 million mark that we always look for week over week. 151 is a solid number to be looking at here, and it was buoyant very much so by the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And we're going to dive right now into that top 10 and see just how well that movie helped get us over that threshold. Let's go to the charts. And it should come as no surprise to anybody that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was the #1 movie, finally knocking Super Mario Bros. Off of its #1 perch. The movie finally came out and was able to say, Mario. And Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 takes the #1 seed for the weekend of May 5th with an opening of $114 million of a $250 million budget. That is a big win for Marvel right there. Another $100 million opening weekend for Marvel, but it comes with a few caveats. Specifically, if we're looking here in the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy of its own, it's a bit of a decline from the previous Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 opened to $146 million in its opening weekend. So this is a huge decrease. You want to get those big up returns. You want those to be increased volume over volume, especially in the finale here. This is James Gunn's swan song in the MCU. It caps off the Guardians trilogy, which was a beloved Volume 1 and Volume 2 from a few years ago. So it's a lot of questions to be like, what happened here? And I think it's a few things if we look at. I think obviously the length in which we've gone between Volume 2 and Volume 3 hurt this movie immensely. If you had released this movie way back in the day and you had kept this trilogy pretty consistent with each other, I think those returns still would have been up there. I think it has hurt itself that it has been probably, 7-8 years since Volume 2. I don't even remember when Volume 2 came out. I think it was like 2017, 2018, which is crazy. The fact that I can't remember when the previous movie in this franchise was released has hurt this movie. I think that's definitely a sign. It does not help. Also, that Marvel is in a bit of a slump right now. Phase 4 has not been exactly what they've wanted it to be. The kickoff to Phase 5 has absolutely not been what they've wanted it to be. Ant-Man and the Wasp, a movie that was supposed to kick off the next big bad, couldn't even hit 500 million worldwide. So all eyes are on this movie, and it had a lot to live up to. And it seems to be that while it is a big win in and of itself that Marvel once again has another $100 million opening for it, it does not seem to be these big, huge blockbusters that these movies need to be, especially to reap back its huge inflated budgets. All of these movies have just $200 million price tags. That doesn't even count all of the fucking marketing that goes into all these movies. These movies definitely, when all is said and done, have spent somewhere in the $300 to $350 million range before. So it has to make at least $400 million before it's even going to start trying to turn a profit. And that's a huge ask of these movies, especially in these movies that are getting less and less returns on it. Like, if you can't even get the finale of Guardians of the Galaxy to get a franchise best for it, that is an interesting thing and a tough thing that you have to sit back and you have to look at, and you have to, if you are Marvel right now, be sitting in the office and being like, what are we doing wrong that is not getting us these returns like we used to? What are we doing wrong post Endgame that outside of Spider-Man No Way Home, we have just been consistently dropping the ball? What is it that audiences aren't turning up for anymore? It's crazy. And it's something you have to consider, because yes, while this is a big win, this is the lowest May opening for a Marvel movie since the first Thor movie. That is insane. A movie that the Guardians of the Galaxy beloved. The first one is one of the best movies in the Marvel canon. And the second one is not too far behind it. And while this movie, I think, is one of the best, I think this is the best one of the Guardians movies. I saw it this past weekend, and there's stuff that I fucking loved about it, stuff that I didn't love about it. It was definitely a mixed bag when all is said and done, but I still really enjoyed the movie. I think emotionally it really worked for me. But there's something there that's just making these people not turn up for these movies anymore. And this is something that Marvel really has to sit back and ponder about. This is why I always said that after Endgame, they should have just taken 5 years off and not made another movie for 5 years. And I fucking stand by that more and more with each one of these movies that's been released. That's just how crazy of a time we live in right now. I don't want to say it's superhero fatigue because obviously people are still turning out for these $100 million openings. Movies would die to get that kind of opening. So it's not necessarily superhero fatigue, but I think it is something where we're not just going to tune in for the same old shit anymore. You need to do something unique. You need to do something unique with these characters and something that's interesting that's going to put those asses in those seats long term like you did with the Infinity Saga. But looking back here at the chart, in second place, the Super Mario Bros. Movie in its fifth week, dropping 54.5%, takes in $18 million to bring its total domestic haul to $518 million of a $100 million budget. We will be diving into more good Super Mario Bros. Stuff later on. In third, we've got Evil Dead Rise in its third week, drops 52.8%, takes in $5.7 million to bring its total domestic haul to $54 million off of a $19 million budget. Warner Brothers has another win right there. They are absolutely the king of horror right now in the last few years. In fourth place, we've got Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. In second place, drops 49.8%, takes in $3 million to bring its total domestic haul to $12 million off of a $30 million budget. This movie really needs some staying power. It needs a big, huge Mother's Day total right now if it wants to get anywhere near close to making its budget back. And rounding out the top five is John Wick Chapter 4 in its seventh week, drops 51.5%, takes in $2 million to bring its total domestic haul to $180 million off of a $100 million budget. We take a look here on the back nine, the back five, the whole one place you don't want to be. You definitely don't want to debut outside of the top five. Love Again, debuting in the sixth seed, takes in $2 million off of a $9 million budget. This was the Celine Dion, Priyanka Chopra Jones movie that just imploded on impact. It looked absolutely terrible to begin with. Not surprising here that it's not anywhere slightly where it needs to be. Hopefully, though, with a really slow budget of $9 million, they'll be able to at least get back its budget and make maybe a little bit of profit. But I don't know. I think this movie is going to just taper off very quickly and struggle to make that $9 million return. In seventh place, we've got Dungeons and Dragons Honor Amongst Thieves in its sixth weekend. Drops 63.7%, takes in $1.5 million to bring its total domestic haul to $92 million of a $150 million budget. In eighth place, we've got Air in its fifth week, drops 65.1%, takes in $1.3 million to bring its total domestic haul to $50 million off of a $90 million budget. In ninth place, we've got The Covenant in its third week, drops 66%, takes in $1.2 million to bring its total domestic haul to $14 million off of a $55 million budget. Will definitely be considered one of the biggest bombs of the year so far. And rounding out the top 10 in the 10th spot, holding on right there in its second week, dropping 67.5%, is Sisu. Takes in $1 million to bring its total domestic haul to $5 million off of a $6 million budget. So if this movie can hang around for another week or two, it might just make back its budget and make itself a few shekels along the way. Now, as always, we like to take a look at our fallen heroes. These are our heroes that did their time in the charts but have now bowed out for greener passages. We have two movies this weekend that have dropped out of the top 10. We take a look here at the chart. After 1 week on the chart, Return of the Jedi, its 40th anniversary, bows out of the top 10. And a movie that I'm not even going to begin to pronounce and butcher like I did last week, the latest Bollywood movie after 1 week on the chart, also bows out. You guys did your time, you had your say, you made your money, but now it's time for you to bow out for greener passages. We will see you in the realm of physical media, and as always, we salute you. Now, with Super Mario Bros. Just making absolutely a historic run right now, we've been charting along with its progress to see right now just how high up its charts in the worldwide grossers of all time and domestic grossers of all time. This movie is going to climb before it's all said and done, and we've been following in the worldwide grosses right now, and it was an absolutely stellar jump from week to week. Last week when we took a look, this movie was at 48. It literally just jumped into the top 50 highest worldwide grossing movies of all time, and after only 1 week, it has now jumped over or up until halfway to number 1. It is right now sitting at number 25 for the highest grossing movies of all time. We take a look here at this chart. As you can see it right there, in 25th spot right there, the Super Mario Brothers movie has made $1.159 billion, putting itself just ahead of the 26th spot Captain America Civil War with 1.153 and Aquaman in 27th with 1.148. It sits just behind Minions in 24th spot with 1.159. So it's pretty much probably, as the time of us recording this, is already past Minions. And then it's just a hop, skip, and a jump to the 23rd spot, which is Iron Man 3 with 1.214. This movie is just climbing, and it is going to be insane to see how much higher it climbs in this chart by next weekend again, because this upcoming weekend there is not much coming out. We only have the book club really dropping as far as wide releases, so that really gives Guardians and Super Mario Bros. A wide berth to just continue to make money, and we're going to just keep charting along to see how high Super Mario gets. I could see it right now. It looks like it's finally starting to lose some steam, so I see that this movie is probably going to end up somewhere around $1.3 billion is where I would put it. How far that's going to put it up here in this chart, we're just going to have to keep watching along and see where it lies. Now, we didn't take a look at it last weekend, but this weekend it was an absolute stellar achievement for the Super Mario Bros. It finally crossed 500 million domestically. That is insane. Only 19 movies have ever passed 500 million domestically. Super Mario Bros. The latest joining that list, and we're going to take a look right now to see just how high up this movie hopefully will get. We take a look here at the chart right now. It's the Super Mario Bros. Movie sitting in the 17th spot with $518 million, puts it just ahead of the 18th seed Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, at $515 million. It absolutely disgusts me that that movie still somehow made $500 million domestically. And right ahead also in the 19th spot, Beauty and the Beast, the live action version, making $504 million. It's easy to forget just how much of a fucking box office juggernaut that movie was. It's just absolutely insane to see. Super Mario Bros. Right now sitting just behind the 16th spot of Rogue One, a Star Wars story, that sits at $533 million. And then right ahead of that at 15th spot is The Dark Knight with $534 million. You also forget just how fucking of a juggernaut The Dark Knight was way back in 2008. We turn our sights now to the present day, where we take a look here at our top 10 worldwide for 2023 and our top 10 domestic for 2023. We start with our worldwide. We go right now to the charts. Super Mario Bros., to no surprise, of course, is in the first spot with $1.159 billion. Full River Red right behind it with $673 million. The Wandering Earth 2 in third spot with $604 million. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania in the fourth spot with $474 million. John Wick Chapter 4 rounding out the top 5 with $406 million. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 debuts on the chart in the sixth spot with $282 million. Creed 3 in the seventh spot with $273 million. Boonie Bears right behind that with $221 million. Dungeons and Dragons clinging right there in the ninth spot with $202 million. And Megan rounding out the top 10 with $176.6 million. The debut of Guardians in the chart knocks out our previous 10th seed, which was Scream 6 with $168 million. Thank you, Scream 6, for your time in the worldwide top 10. We'll see you later. Turning then to our top 10 domestic, the Super Mario Brothers movie still holding strong in the first spot with $518 million. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania with $213. John Wick Chapter 4 with $180. Creed 3 with $156. Guardians of the Galaxy debuting right there on the list with $114 million. Scream 6 right behind that with $108 million. We got Megan with $95. Dungeons and Dragons with $90. Cocaine Bear still hanging out there domestically with $64 million. And Shazam Fury of the Gods clinging to that 10th seed with $57 million, knocking out our last 10th place winner, which was Jesus Revolution. Now, another chart we can take a look at is our 2023 blockbuster status chart. This is our chart that takes a look at all of the movies domestically that were able to cross the $100 million threshold. And with no surprise there, Guardians of the Galaxy in its opening weekend was able to debut onto this list with $114 million. We take a look here at the chart. And as you can see, Guardians of the Galaxy debuting right ahead of Scream 6 right there with $114 million. Scream 6 right behind it with $108. Creed 3 ahead of it with $155. John Wick with $180. Ant-Man and the Wasp with $212. And then you got the Super Mario Brothers movie with the $518 million. These are our 2023 blockbuster movies right now, and hopefully this list will only grow as we continue our climb into the summer movie season. We turn now to our 2023 top 10 chart riders. This is our list that we take a look at to see which movies have spent the longest time in the top 10 for the year. Hopefully by the end of the year, we will be able to see just what movies hung around the best, which had the best legs, what did the best here in the top 10, at least for the year. We take a look now here at the chart, and as you can see, there is not much change here. I added a little bit to it because I thought it was a little unfair that a movie that was locked in at 6 weeks was going to get knocked out, but then a bunch of other movies with 6 weeks that were locked in were still in there, and it was like, how do you quantify which stays in and which leaves? So I decided to just loop them all together in the 6 week mark. So now we've got some more movies added back in here to get a little bit more flavor going right now. So if we look all the way at the bottom, we've got Cocaine Bear locked in at 5 weeks. Just ahead of that, now managing to make itself at 5 weeks a piece is both the Super Mario Brothers movie and Air. Air is the question of doubt right now. Will that movie be able to hang out still into the top 10? It's at the lower end of the totem pole right now, so who knows if it's going to get a 6th week. Super Mario Brothers movie, though, absolutely will be getting a 6 weeks. We'll follow that placement as it moves higher onto this list. Right ahead of that, all locked in at 6 weeks, is Scream 6, Creed 3, Jesus Revolution, Megan, and Missing. So it seems that 6 weeks is the litmus test for how long some of these big movies are lasting in theaters and which are going to be able to get ahead of it. Right now, sitting at 6 weeks, hopefully looking for a 7th, is Dungeons & Dragons Honor Amongst Thieves. Right ahead of that is Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, locked in at 7 weeks. Right ahead of that, right now, John Wick Chapter 4 is right there at 7 weeks. It's hoping to jump into the top 3 and get itself an 8th week. It's looking promising as this movie has consistently hung around in the top 5 its entire time. So it is entirely possible that we're finally going to see John Wick Chapter 4 enter into that upper pantheon of movies that we have here at the top of the charts, which are all movies that just clung around in the winter. You got A Man Called Otto locked in at 8 weeks in the 3rd spot. And then we've got our 2023 hanger-ons that just did stellar business over the winter, which was Puss in Boots, locked in at 11 weeks in 2nd place, and Avatar: The Way of Water locked in at 12 weeks in 1st place. Is anything going to be able to get close to that absolute fucking juggernaut? With the huge debut of Guardians of the Galaxy, we're finally able to take a look, finally back at 2 of my charts from the beginning of the year, which were my 2023 top 10 bets and also my blockbuster status for what I figured was going to be hitting blockbuster status in 2023. We'll start with my top 10 bets. We go now to this chart, and as you can see on here, this is my top 10 bets for our 2023 worldwide movies. You have right now, we take a look in here, 3 movies so far have come out that all are on here. I don't have the orders right, but at least I've got the movies right so far. Joining this list finally with the releases, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We've got the money sign next to it because I was right. It is in the top 10 so far. It is in the 6th spot, however, so we're going to see if it has enough in it to absolutely climb up to the 2nd spot. But I don't think that's even possible because I had Guardians of the Galaxy ahead of the Super Mario Brothers movie, and I don't think Guardians of the Galaxy now is going to come anywhere close to Super Mario Brothers. Super Mario Brothers might be the biggest movie of the year, and I'm an absolute idiot for not considering that and putting it as number 1 because I had the Super Mario Brothers movie in the 4th spot for the year, and that clearly is not going to be the case. That movie is going to do business like no other. And then also you see down there I have Ant-Man and the Wasp in the 8th spot seed. Right now it's sitting at the 4th spot, but I'm sure as the year goes and more movies come out that Ant-Man and the Wasp is going to drop down this list. So I might get that one correct. And then now we take a look at our blockbuster status chart. These were all of the movies that I said were going to hit blockbuster status in 2023. And right now, as you can see, we got a money sign next to Guardians Volume 3 because that is the latest movie to join the blockbuster status. So I am 5 for 6 right now. Actually, I guess I should be 5 for 7 because Scream actually hit blockbuster status and I didn't even put that one on here, and Shazam didn't make it. So we should say 5 for 7. But as of what's on this list, I am 5 for 6. Hopefully we can continue the trend and get me back up there with another big win with Fast X in 2 weeks. But this is how it is so far. And that'll do it for all of us here this week at the charts. It was a glorious weekend. Again, any weekend we can get above 100 million at the box office is a big win. Guardians of the Galaxy right there. Despite not hitting the absolute highs that we were expecting it to do, still absolute big success in its books right there. Hopefully it has the staying power. The question this weekend is going to be all eyes once again on Guardians to see what its 2nd week drop-off is going to be, because as we know, the 2nd week drop-offs for Marvel movies are staggering. They have not been good lately. So it is going to be very interesting to watch and see. Does Guardians have the legs? Will it be able to hold on and maintain and buck the trend of those atrocious second weekend drop-offs? So that's going to be the question to be answered this upcoming weekend. I think it's got a good pace right now to buck that trend. It's got an A cinema score. The reviews are really good on it. I think it's getting good positive word of mouth. So hopefully that's enough to help kickstart it and have another stellar second weekend. All we have this upcoming weekend is the release of the Book Club 2, which is the big, huge movie, and then a few like smaller movies coming out that aren't really going to do anything. So it's all going to be all eyes on Guardians again this weekend. It has this one weekend to do whatever it can before the summer movie season really kicks into high gear, where we get a big movie every weekend, and you're just going to have to start being off to the races from the get-go. Because as soon as May 19th hits and Fast X comes out, it's just off to the fucking races. You got Fast X. Next weekend, Little Mermaid. Weekend after that, Spider-Man. Weekend after that, Transformers. Weekend after that, Elemental. Then you got The Flash. Then Indiana Jones. Then fucking Insidious, The Red Door. Then Mission Impossible. Then Barbie and Oppenheimer. It is going to be fucking insane these next few weeks. This summer movie season, going to be absolutely stellar, and it's going to be wild to chart along with it. So make sure you drop along here with me week over week as we dive into all that fucking good stuff. But that'll do it for all of us here at the Outpost in this adventure. Until the next one, you have been you. I have been me. These are the movies that we love so much. Bogey says go out and go see a movie. I agree, Bogey. Get your ass out and go see a movie. And until next time, I'll see you at the movies.